The world is burning, most of life has been destroyed, and those still alive have either turned to cannibalism or other forms of evil. However, this dad and his boy are travelling south looking for others like themselves, the good guys. What is good, YouTube? My name is Ash Porter and welcome to my channel, and today I have such a unique piece of fiction for you. It is The Road by Cormac McCarthy. As usual, this video is going to be split into two sections. The first part, me discussing anything that's not spoilery. It's like basically kind of giving a quick review of the book, what I liked about it and why I would recommend it. And then the second part of the video is going to be for you guys who have read the book or don't care about spoilers, because I'm going to be talking about some of the spoilery type stuff and what I loved about it. Like most of the books I've been reading recently, this has been on my reading list for a while now, and I finally got around to reading it, and I'm so happy about that. I first heard about this book a while ago. Like, I've watched the film basically when I was a bit younger. I don't really remember it that well, but the reason I watched the film was because it had Viggo Mortensen in it, aka Aragorn from Lord of the Rings, and who doesn't love Aragorn? But I did watch this film a while ago, and so I will say, coming into this book, I could not really remember the plotline or what happened at all. But what I will say is, this book absolutely blew me away. It is incredible. So this book is set in a post-apocalyptic world where we don't really know many details, and McCarthy kind of purposely keeps quiet on that kind of stuff. But we just know the world is basically burning, that most of life has been eradicated, and there are pockets of survivors all over the place. We don't even know where this book is set. Like, you can assume it's set in North America, but equally it could be somewhere in Europe, it could be anywhere. And all we know really is that something really bad has happened to the earth. Everyone's died. We're given hints throughout the book that some of the survivors like banded together, kind of formed tribes, and within that, you know, little wars happened. People became their worst selves. Lots of people resorted to cannibalism, and the world, for those surviving, probably just wasn't a particularly nice place. And honestly, this is pretty classically post-apocalyptic. However, our unnamed protagonists, a father and son still fighting to stay alive in this world, are like shining lights. Well, I say shining lights, well, they aren't perfect, but they aren't cannibals, and I think that speaks for something. Basically, the plot of the story is that they are heading south, slowly trying to survive, coming close with death multiple times, and trying to avoid evil people while also seeking to find others like themselves. Now, one of the things that I really liked about this book, it is written so uniquely. Now, my little brain and my lack of language doesn't have the ability to truly explain it to you well, so I can only say, go and read the book and you will see just how like uniquely written this is. It's also one of those books where, if I'm being really honest, not a lot happens, yet I was absolutely hooked. I couldn't get away from it. I was gripped by this story, despite the fact that, you know, not a lot happens. I'm probably exaggerating there. There are things that happen throughout the story, but I think the difference compared to other books is they're not made into like the central plot line. Like, they're little incidents that happen here and there that I won't spoil now. But it's just incredible how a book like this, that, like I said, where at its core, not much happens, yet you're still gripped, and I've come to the end of it and I'm like, what a flipping good book. But the main thing about this book isn't necessarily the journey south of trying to find other people, that actually the book is all about this relationship between the father and the son. It's their fight to stay alive, their fight to keep moving, their fight to not let their worst instincts overcome them, and more than anything, it's a fight to defy death. You know, for them, death was the easy option, and it comes up so much throughout this book, yet they're continuing to try and have hope to hope for something better, clinging on to life and a future. In this book, big questions are raised, you know, specifically like about God and the nature of good and evil and life and death and all this kind of stuff. And so it is incredibly thought-provoking as well. And if I was going to summarize this book, I'd say it is a beautiful book about a dad who will do anything to keep his son alive and to try and bring hope for his son's future. I really, really do recommend that you go away and read this book if you haven't already. But now, let's get into the spoilers. Now, compared to a lot of other books that are just full of so much going on and there's so many incidents to talk about, like I said, and you probably know this because I assume if you're here now, you've read this book or seen the film or whatever, not a lot does happen, yet there are two things I do really want to talk about. And they are, firstly, should the dad, the man, this unnamed guy, Aragon, whatever you want to call him, should he have kept his son alive? Or was the more ethical, better thing to do to have killed him and then killed himself? That's the first one. And then secondly, what's the ending of the book about? So, number one, should the man, the dad, have kept them both alive? So this is a really interesting question, especially when it's, the book has that major moment where it's a flashback where his wife and the kid's mum is alive. It's the apocalypse has happened and they're living in this world which basically is a fiery hell on Earth. And she says, I can't do this anymore, basically, and she goes and kills herself. And they have this discussion before it happens, like, you should kill us, why have you kept us alive, it's so unfair, all this kind of stuff. And she makes that decision for herself and goes and does that and escapes from this world. And then the dad and his son are left, and he's got a decision. He's like, do I follow in her footsteps and sort of just get rid of the pain for us all so we don't have to go through it anymore? Or does he say, I believe that there's hope, that life is still worth living, that there could be something for my son? And so he obviously, we know, decides that that's the option that he doesn't want to take his life. Maybe, you know, maybe he can't. Maybe he's, I don't know. I wouldn't go as far as calling him a coward, because I don't think it is a cowardly thing. Actually, I think what he did is very brave. Yet some people would say maybe he didn't have the courage to take that step, because it's a scary thing, right? Let's be honest. And then throughout this book, it kind of constantly comes up, you know, there's times when the kid is like, just kill me, I don't want to live anymore. There's times where the dad is clearly dying throughout the whole thing. It's like he's questioning, would it just be easier? Should I just let us starve? Should I just shoot us? Then they use up the bullets, and so he can't do that anyway. And it's a constant theme throughout the book. My thoughts on it is, though, that I feel like he's done the right thing, especially when we'll come on to the ending in a minute. Like, I think obviously this is a very optimistic approach, but you should always look for hope. And obviously I haven't been in a fiery apocalypse where everyone's died and there's cannibals roaming the world and in charge and that kind of stuff. I haven't lived through that. But what I would say is, I feel like he maybe did the right thing, in the sense that he wanted what's best for his kid, and he knew that there's a chance of life and that it was worth fighting for. It's such an interesting question, and I'd love to hear what you think on this bit in the comments below. Number two, the ending of this book. Now, I was not expecting this ending with the dad dying, and then we find out that they've been followed by another family this whole time, and that they then take the lad in. And I mean, let's be honest, it's pretty devastating when Aragon dies. I'm just gonna call him Aragon, why not? It's a pretty gutting moment, but you know it's coming. You know he's obviously unwell and is dying throughout from something. But it still is heartbreaking him out. And my question is, are these people good? Are they bad? Are they just gonna eat the poor lad? Or are they actually good people who are gonna take him in and like become part of that family? And are they the type of people that they were looking for the whole time? And I think it's just quite a sad thing that, you know, obviously that's the great thing about storytelling, is you can have drama like this in it. It brings that emotion that they were looking for other good people and the whole time they were behind them. Like, that's pretty sad. But, you know, obviously the way it finishes, it's open to interpretation. It leaves room for the imagination. The way I picture it is that they continue walking south and suddenly they find like a place where there's other good people and that there's grass growing and crops and food and running water that's safe to drink and all this kind of stuff, and a place that they can settle down and call home and be safe. But equally, they might have just died on the road when they got caught up by cannibals. Who knows? But either way, this book is phenomenal. I so enjoyed reading it. Like I said before, it's so different to any other book I've read. The style of writing, the way it doesn't have any, you know, like speech marks, all this kind of stuff. It was such a good read. I cannot recommend it enough, and I'm so glad I read it. And that has been The Road by Cormac McCarthy. It is a quality book. I so recommend it. I've been Ash Porter. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.